right. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? And good evening. And tonight, we're going to have a mayor's conversation. Candidates who want to run for mayor. And it's not a debate, it's just for them to come on and to discuss their views. I think we have 2 debates coming up, and we'll talk about that. But again, we have 3 mayor candidates tonight, and next month we will have, I believe, 4 candidates. But before we get started, I want to dedicate the show to Skinny Wilson, the great leader at the Port of Wilmington, a leader like no other leaders that we've seen in this town. He will be on the next video. But again, tonight's show, especially we're talking about job safety and all the great things that he's done and the people around him. So again, tonight's show is dedicated to the great Skinny Wilson. We call him the king of the Port of Wilmington. But tonight, again, I want to ask these great candidates to introduce themselves, a little short bio, because I got my watch here on all of them, because I want to take questions and stuff. So again, I want each candidate to introduce themselves shortly, and then we'll go into the questions. We'll start with you.
Thank you for the opportunity to be on this evening. My name is Kevin Kelly. I'm one of the 800 candidates for mayor of the city of Wilmington. Just some real quick background. I grew up in the Browntown section of Wilmington. I went to Wilmington High, Del Tech, and Goldie Beacon, so my education's local. I live on Batting Street, over by St. Elizabeth's. I haven't been more than 5 blocks in about 58 years. I live with my wife, my 3 sons, millennials that hopefully will leave the house one of these days. I started, various community associations around town long ago. Had the pleasure of serving on city council with Mr. Griffiths for 20 years, did a lot of good things, and currently work for the Department of Health and Social Services as its Director of Management Services. I've been in that position for 35 years, and I oversee the operations of the department. Okay. Good?
Yes.
Julius, thank you for having us on. I appreciate it. My name's Norman Griffiths. As Kevin said, we got elected the same year, 1992, on City Council and served for 20 years. I also served as president of City Council for 4 years from 2008 to 2012. My late wife and I moved here in 1983 because of a job with DuPont. I was an attorney with the DuPont Legal Department for 32 years. And during that time, I also served on City Council. I also serve on a number of boards, the board of Del Tech, the board of Westside Health, and the board of the Delaware Solid Waste Authority. I have 4 children. They're all grown. They're 2 boys, 2 girls, and they are very, very important to me in terms of my family life. As I said, I have served on City Council for 20 years, 4 as president. And I also, that's what made me want to serve the city even in a greater role as mayor. And that's why I put my hat in the ring, as Kevin said, with the other 800 people that are running for the office to run for mayor. It's a job that's going to have a lot of challenges, but I'm sure I can handle it due to my background, both as a lawyer and as a city councilman with extensive knowledge of the city. So I just want to say thank you all for tuning in tonight, and I hope you'll consider me when the time comes for you to vote for your next mayor.
Good evening, Wilmington, and thank you, Mr. Julius Cephas, for allowing me this opportunity. My name is Stephen Washington, born and reared on the west side of Wilmington, product of the Wilmington School District, which then turned red clay. I'm the only candidate that has actually experienced segregation and desegregation, which had given me an opportunity. I went to Norfolk State University, graduated in 1986, graduated from Arcadia with a master's degree in reading in 2003. I am a school teacher. By no means am I a politician. I am a school teacher, and I believe that education be the field that makes all other fields possible. Reason as to why I put my hat in the arena is simply because I believe that I can help more outside of the school system than I can in. I've been in education now 25 years. Started my career out at the City of Wilmington doing payrolls for the City of Wilmington in human resources and then in public works. So I coordinated the timekeeper system in the City of Wilmington. I'm all about education. I'm all about appreciation. I'm all about communication, which is key to building our city and building our community. Thank you for allowing me.
Okay. I was going to ask this question, but I think everybody already answered, but because again, it's a lot of questions and we're gonna take calls, but in the minute and a half, I want everybody to say why they're running for mayor, briefly, because again, we got a lot of questions to go through, and some of y'all have already summarized it, but if you can briefly, so we can get to everybody.
Well, the city's in crisis. Our seniors don't feel safe. Our young people do not have opportunities. Vacant houses are popping up left and right, and our business community wonders whether they need to stay in or not. Mayor Williams 4 years ago promised to change the city. That's not happened. We become Murder Town USA. Our challenge is how do we change that Murder Town USA label? Well, we're going to have to do that by becoming safer, stronger, and united and working together. And how is that going to be accomplished? First and foremost, we have to change the way we police. We have to get our trust back with the police because they're the ones that can protect us, but we also need to help ourselves out when we don't need them. We need to have dedicated community policing officers in neighborhoods who get to walk, talk, and shake people's hands and know them, and have some police captains who are accountable. But we can't address our public safety needs unless we address our young people. As I say, it's not the 70s and 80s when I grew up. Our young people have a lot of challenges. They're lacking education, as Mr. Washington said, and opportunities to be able to grow up and be able to work at the port like you did, Julius. We also have to make our city government more responsive. We got to get away from ticketing people once the street cleaner comes at 10:05 and you get a ticket at 10:10, and have one number, a 311, where you call and it's a very responsive group of people who try to help you out and get you to yes. These vacant houses really cause problems in our neighborhoods. They bring down your property value by 10%, and they also just make things deplorable for the people who have to live in those neighborhoods. When all things are working well, then we're going to have some economic development. People are going to want to come to the city, and the way we're going to attract most of the business are small business. We need to work on the port plan. How do we expand the Port of Wilmington to be able to bring more jobs into the city for young people who can't go to college? But we also have to attract the millennials to come to the city because they have a strong tax base and they want to spend money in the city. So, at the end of the day, listen, I've been around for a while. I have political experience. I have education, financial background, government experience, and neighborhood. And I have a huge drive and passion to make the city better.
All right, same thing. We'll try to do it in a minute here because we've got a lot of questions and we got calls.
I was a minute 32.
Okay. I got a buzzer here. I'm going to start using it in a minute. If I zap you, that means you went over. All right, go ahead.
Sorry.
That's all right, Kevin. Thank you, Julius. I would like to be your mayor because I really see a lot of need for the city. And all of the things that Kevin said are true in terms of some of the deficiencies in city government. But along those same lines, I really see a need to have a mayor that serves the people, but has a team of people as city employees that are going to step up and do things because they have the same zeal and the same goals for the city. Right now, I think a lot of people are moving through motions, and I think we as mayor, I would certainly try to instill a little more enthusiasm about what city residents do, and the city employees do, and really let them understand who the customers are and who we serve. I agree that some of these points that have been made, reference to permitting and the difficulties of that as far as business goes, education. We're a little bit on the outside of the education issue because it is dictated by the state, but we still can do an advocacy, play an advocacy role to try to get the school system the way we need it and to get the administration of the schools in Wilmington that way. We also, the point about the young people and looking to the future, that's very, very important that we put a lot of attention on our young people and where they're going, who they're taking their lead from in terms of growing up at homes. Sometimes those homes are dysfunctional and they're not getting leadership there, but they really need some guidance. But beyond just talking about the future and the children, I also want to just emphasize while that's going on, we owe a duty to our citizens to take the bad guys off the street. And there are some people out here that are not the subject of what we were just talking about. These are folks that are really, about committing crime. And crime is like the focal point of and leads to everything else that the city's trying to do.
Okay, I'm not going to cut you. Then we'll go to Mr. Washington.
Okay,
and then
that's fine.
I got some more questions for you.
Thank you, Julius.
Well, I decided to run simply because I see lack, and their lack of skills. their lack of funding, their lack of skills basically can kill and will. I've noticed that there's a lot of lack simply because people have been excluded from decision-making processes which affect our lives. I think that we need to be more inclusive and be included. 70% out of 100% of the citizens in Wilmington have been excluded from the decision-making processes which affect them. It seems and it appears that 30% have been included. We want to change that number. We want the reason why kids are dying simply because their lack of skills. And we have little boys right now, first, second, and third grade. By the time they're in the sixth grade, they're not reading. Education's key simply because we need to really begin to get our kids reading, because once they're reading, they're able to make better decisions that's going to affect their lives. People feel excluded out of situations because they paying taxes, but then they getting decisions are being made that affect their lives thereafter them knowing instead of prior to. People really need to be on the same team knowing about what's going to affect them prior to decisions being made, having some opportunity to discuss, having some opportunity to make decisions within their community, within their city. Our city right now is almost like our city right now, they're making decisions for the community, and no one else is involved, and I find that to be alarming because of the lack. Even if we talk about something simple as snow detail in front of someone's house, if they were able to park in front of their house or have a sticker for parking in front of their house during a big snowstorm, that would make it easier for them. And if someone is shoveling their snow, that person should be fined. You should also be fined if you don't shovel your snow, because I tell you what, if you shovel your snow in front of your house, I'm gonna be brief. If you're shoveling your snow in front of your house and you have the opportunity to park in front of your house, you're not going to be angry at a person that shoveled their snow in front of your house and parked in front of your house. So that's just one of the issues.
I appreciate it. Now, we wanted to change the subject for a second.
Sure.
The Police Foundation, everybody's talking about this commission. And I read through some of the commission, and it was 200 pages.
Right.
But, I seen the recommendations. Part of the recommendations was to improve Wilmington Police operations, community policing, use more technology, more data crime. It seems to me, and I'm gonna talk about some of the things that I didn't see, but from reading the commission recommendations, it seemed like it's more for the foundation to make money. I don't see a lot of it being passed down to help our community. I see a lot of it selling equipment for cameras, it's more stuff for the foundation to make money, but I don't see nothing for our community. Like, one of the things I've noticed, they didn't talk about mass incarceration, gun violence control, police diversity in the urban communities where, again, you might have 300 officers, maybe 25 are African American. It doesn't show it's not the same as what the community looks like. I didn't see a lot of things. I don't see nothing about at-risk youth for the kids, because we know who's going to be in jail at an early age. You know who's going to be a mechanic. You know who's going to be in the computers. You know early on. But they didn't mention none of this stuff in the commission report. And I'd like each of y'all, again, and be mindful of time, because we're going to, I want everybody to get their opinion across. And I know some of the stuff is, but talk about your opinion on the commission report and what you've seen and what you didn't see. Because again, for me, and I know about, even with the port, a lot of things are for private companies to make money, but it doesn't trickle down to the community to affect. So start with you.
I thought the report was great. I don't believe there was any agenda to sell equipment. The report was an operational review of the police department. Remember, we have the 4th highest number of police per capita in the country. We have almost 250 officers for one officer for every 250 people. So the report should have looked a little bit at some of those issues, but it looked at how we enhance the homicide unit, how do we change the deployment of the police department. Because right now, we're not seeing our police being deployed correctly. The criminals are winning the battle. So the report came in with some very high educated individuals who came in and made some recommendations. The state put a lot of time and effort into it. The community had their chance to do it. The mayor said, you know what? I don't want none of that report. Let me bring Ramsey in for $125,000. Let me pay him to see what goes on. But the issues you talked about, Julius, are very important. How do we diversify the police department? Well, first and foremost, we have to make the police department have more trust with our young people. One proposal I would have is a cadet program. We'd have young people who are cadets 18 to 25. They would help work in the police station, and when there was openings, they could move into those slots. Listen, our city didn't become racially changed over time. We've got to get our police department more reflective of the citizens we serve and have true hiring goals. But more importantly, make it, if I'm a young guy living in Browntown, I want to be a cop. That's a good job I want to have. Just like I want to work at the port. That's what we need to do.
A lot of the commission report too was really dealing with operational things. I mean, it got down into the weeds of what shifts a lieutenant ought to work versus a sergeant and that sort of thing. And I'm thinking that these experts that put it together had looked at other police departments, had worked with other police departments, and these things were things that had proven successful. They seem to make the police department a little more mechanical and not get at the issues you were talking about in terms of diversity, although there is a piece in there that does talk about community policing. So I think the commission report, as far as it goes, went as far as it went. And remember, the police chief was on that commission. You know, Chief Cummings was there, so he had input all the way along, you know, as that thing was being developed.
Let me just, I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you. I've been on boards, and if you have 10 people on a board, you only have one vote. So what I'm saying is that because you're on a board, that doesn't mean you have an input when you got 9 others who's going against you. But go ahead.
Yeah, but my point in mentioning the chief was that, you know, I'm hoping there was a give and take as they were debating these various issues to include in the report or not to include. And that, you know, our department may be unique in some respects, and that you can't just take a cookie cutter and say, okay, this worked out in some other city, so it'll work here. So I think the things that they came up with were more mechanical, and especially the bureaucracy. They created these upper level positions. 2 of them look like they're the same thing. They have to do with information and communications. And I thought that could have been one job versus having 2 inspectors at that higher level. But in all of this, one of the things that I think everyone will agree with me in is we have to have accountability. You can't give somebody a title and a responsibility and never have them come before the chief or some board or whatever and say, okay, how is this working? You've got to have that feedback for anything to be successful. And that was what I found was missing there. It just seemed like, okay, you're creating a structure, these folks are going to go off and do what they want, but are they going to be accountable? And that's the key thing for me.
Now, one more thing, and I'm going to go. You was a police officer, I read somewhere.
In the District of Columbia. Yeah.
And how did you take this as being an officer? Because you coming in with a different experience.
Yeah, there's no comparison. I mean, there is so much difference. I served on the D.C. Police Department from 1974 to 1980. So the time frame was much, much different. I mean, people were wearing the high heel shoes and the bell bottoms when I served. I mean, that's and had afros that wouldn't fit under your
Everybody
cap.
was in love.
Yeah, everybody was in love. And so disco was a thing when I served, and it was a good time. But I wouldn't even begin to compare that or to use that experience as a basis for how I look at the report. I look at the report mainly based on my experience here in Wilmington. 4 years as public safety chair. I was the chair of the public safety committee on city council for the time I was there. And those kinds of experiences to say, okay, this is you know, what we're going to do. The other thing is to talk to the officers too and see on a practical basis, can this stuff be implemented?
Now, I don't want to mean, I just wanted the viewing audience to understand that he was a police officer. I just wanted to get that into, you know. All right, because I didn't mean to take up none of your time. Go ahead.
I believe what both of the gentlemen said was on point. I just think that the reports aren't community friendly. I think that we need to really put reports in a language where the people in the community can understand what's going on. Because it's almost like a person in the community is looking at or hearing about the report, but they don't know how to respond because they have no idea what the reports are about. A lot of people aren't reading, so we have to make all this information friendly for the community so people can be or feel included. And again, I'm staying on that inclusion exclusion, because if the community's not included, what good is the report? You know, it's almost like saying that the decision-making process has no integrity. And if everybody's not included in decision-making processes, it's not going to have integrity. So we have to begin to make these reports user-friendly. We have to really do community policing. I have a plan for the police, and it's called an ASAP plan. And for some may say it's as soon as possible. For me, it's an affirmative strategic action plan. In that plan, I would put 4 police in the north, 4 police in the east, 4 police in the south, 4 police in the west. And those 4 police, I would have a black, a white, a Latino, and a female. And they will work 8-hour shifts. I believe after the 8 hours, people working overtime, they're not really working at overtime. You're going to do majority of your work in 8 hours. So after the first hour, all the number 1s, they shift to the next area of the community. After the second hour, the number 2 police shift to the next area. After the third hour, the number 3 police shift. And after the 4th hour, number 4 police shift. That in total, you will see 16 police in your community daily, all the time. Not to mention that it does build trust with the community, because you know them by name, they know you by name, and that opens the bridge up for me to trust. Not to mention, if we have to work together outside of the police station, trust me, believe me on this one, we're going to work together on the inside. So then it brings the trust and love inside the community. That's what it's about. Getting throughout the community, policing the area, because police are not there. They're not going to be there really to stop crime, but they are deterrents, where they deter crime. And we have to begin to trust our police, but the only way we're going to see them or trust them is by seeing them in our community daily, often. You know, and listen, one of the other things I like to say is that we take jobs for to get paid, but if you don't have passion in what you do, you're not going to get paid, because passion doesn't follow money. Money really follows passion. So when you're passionate about what you do, then the money's created, then the jobs are created, then the people are happy, then everyone is included.
All right, before I go to the next question, I just want our community to understand something. And when we hear about these foundations and stuff, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that in it for them? Also, number 2 is, again, with people who are addicts, they have people on their team who was former addicts. A good example, I would like to see more people talk to the youth who's in trouble, ones who's a former been in trouble.
Sure.
Again, I believe these people need to be at the table to have their views, and to be. But again, when you have people who are not there at the table, the right people, I got a little problem with that. And again, there's an old saying: if you walk in a room and you're looking for the mark, if you don't see it, you are the mark. Again, and there's a lot of suffering, but there's a lot of people making money off of our pain, and so there were some problems I had with some of this report.
That's fine.
But another question we'll go to is, okay, the city budget is $150 million. The Wilmington Police Department is $54 million. Okay, they're talking about more resources, more equipment. Okay, how can we get these things that we need and make things safe without raising taxes? And I'm going to ask all 3 of you gentlemen the same thing, again, because everybody wants things, but they have to be paid for.
Sure.
But when you talk about raising taxes, people frown. So how can we get both? And I'll start with you.
Well, so my day job, I do numbers every day. The size of the budget I have is, 20 times the size of the city budget I manage every day. You have priorities. I deal with people who have health issues, blind, DDS, disabled individuals. We have to become more efficient in the police department. We've already proven more isn't better. So how do you make things better? How do you move some of the individuals who were in desk jobs out onto the street? But we've got to prioritize what's the top issue in the city of Wilmington, and right now it's public safety. We have to address the public safety needs. So we've got to look through the whole budget, where are there efficiencies that we can look at, what are we doing now that we probably shouldn't be doing, and what can we delay to another time? The other more important issue is, how do we go to the business community and help them start and put some money back into the city? I think right now you have a mayor that doesn't engage the business community. He just, is confrontational with them, doesn't want anything to do with them. How do we set them down? So, you know what? We need some money for this data center. We need some money for a cadet program. More importantly, we need money for our youth programs. We've got to be able to help our young people out. And how do we get some youth interventions workers in to be able to see what happens? But the budget part, that's the easy part for me. I do it every day. I make life-changing decisions every day, and the city will have to figure out how to make that work as well.
Okay, same question. People want things, they want safety, they want all this. How do we do this without raising taxes? Or will we have to raise taxes?
Well, the city council is having budget hearings as we speak. This is the month that they have their budget hearings, and they are open to the public, and there is an opportunity to speak at the city council budget hearings, especially if your council person, whatever district you live in, you want them to ask certain questions. You can pose those questions to your council person, and they'll be asked and answered. I think, you know, in terms of equipment, just that's all you mentioned, but there's other things too, because like I said,
You can elaborate.
well, the other things too are like these jobs,
Right.
and you know, how they're going to restructure the police department, and convincing council that this restructuring is going to make us have a better police department. You know, not just for the sake of having a lot of titles, but is it really going to have an effect, and not just a surrender to the people that put the commission report together and say they must be right. I mean, there's still an opportunity to participate in the commission report and recognize the state, you know, helped us with putting that together. But at the same time, you know, finding ways to fit it within our system. I think there's still ways to do that. But on the budget, it's, you know, you're absolutely right, Julius. I mean, you know, when you find money to pay for something, a lot of times it's coming from something else. And the more important question is, where are you taking the money from to do this? If you're going to do what you said and not raise taxes. And typically, we're not going to raise taxes just because of one or two events. I mean, we can find ways to move money around to do that. That's one way. But a big way, and the police department is one of the leaders here, is grants. And they apply for grants at the federal level, at the state level. And oftentimes the grants pay for things like what's the shot spotter thing? I think a grant paid for that. There was something relating to the Biden crime bill. A grant paid for that. So the point I'm making is we're in a unique position in that the Vice President of the United States is a Delawarean. You know, and so I think it's one of those things where you have to look at the budget. And as finance chair for 8 years, when I served on council, we would find ways to find money to pay for things that we had prioritized and made more important. So between moving money around and the grants, there are ways to do this without raising taxes.
Okay. Same question to you.
I was going to say that about grant writing, by the way.
See, when you go third.
I'm going last next time.
This time,
You got the good seat.
but this time I'm gonna switch it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's all right.
You got me with
I'm
that.
just gonna
With grant writing, I'm looking for 5 grant writers and have an office of grant writers. That's all they do is write grants to the federal government, and that brings money in. And that's money you don't have to pay back.
Right.
See, when you get money allocated to you from the state wants to know what to do with that money. They want to know what you're going to do with that money. Sure, when you write a grant, they want to know, but you still have flexibility with the money and the grants that you write. And you have to, and just creative grant writers, that's going to stimulate our system, and that's going to open up jobs, opportunity for jobs. So I'm looking at 5 grant writers that's going to write grants for the police department, for Parks and Recreation, for Public Works, and basically police department, Public Works. License and inspection. So if we write these grants, we don't really have to worry too much about that money that's funded or given to us from the state. We could use that money for what it needs to be used for, but then we have extra, we have overflow. So that's where I'm stuck
I'll
at.
just make one
Okay.
point real quick.
Go
We have
Sure.
$1.5 million sitting in Dover for us for police overtime, and this mayor will take it.
Okay.
We don't need to write grants. We got some money sitting. we need to take it.
Let me say this, and then we'll go to another question.
Sure.
And my mother, Mabel Cephas, has always told me since I was a kid, it's not what you know, it's who you know. You can have the best grant writers, but if they don't know nobody in Dover and D.C., they just practice it. That's just my opinion.
That's a good old boy network, Mr. Cephas.
Well, but I'm a realist. But again, this is my opinion, and this is not the candidate's opinion. But I think that we have to get people who's involved and know the game and understand, because again, if you don't know nobody, you just practice it. That's just my opinion. Again, that's not these candidates. And Mabel Cephas taught me this, and she's been right. But okay, I wanted another question. This time we're going to start with Mr. Griffin, then Mr. Washington,
Takes
Okay.
all my comments.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Okay, we'll talk about at-risk kids. Okay, the target group is 15 to 34 years of age. That's the most highest crime age,
Sure.
where homicides, all kind of crimes start. We have East Side, we have Browntown, West Side, Hilltop. What types of programs, okay, would you implement? Okay, they're talking about, again, bringing West Center City involved. I play ping pong at the West Center City, and the great thing about that is and this happened by accident. We was going there just to blow off steam,
Sure.
but we had people from 80 to 8 years old playing, people who wouldn't normally communicate with each other, and we're having a ball. Bubbles and Mr. Bill and so many people that we wouldn't normally come together. The young kids, they call us OG. And I tell them, you call me Mr. Tibbs. But we have a ball.
Right.
And so, but what type of, and Gundy Jacobs doing a great job, and I think he's going to do so much more at West Center City. But the question
Hicks
is,
Anderson,
again,
right?
Hicks Anderson,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
The question is, 15 to 34, what type of programs would you implement to stop this crime area, this age of crime?
Okay.
And that's for all three.
I think, first of all, a couple of points on that. First of all, you have to present something that's better than what's facing these 15 to 34-year-olds right now. If they think standing on a corner and looking up to drug dealers is a better bet than whatever we're offering, that's what they're going to do. So we have to build some things into it. And some of the programs that we've heard about, you know, they have all sorts of incentives to get the kids to come and participate. That's number one. Number two, we have to work with the nonprofits. You know, you talk about what the city is and what it isn't, what it does and what it doesn't do. And I think, you know, yes, we're not a social service agency. We don't have a department in city government that says social services or mentoring youth. It doesn't have, there's no department in city government with titles like that. So what we have to do is work with the nonprofit sector and develop some kind of partnership. And again, we can find money that will help us with the costs that go with that. So if to have longer hours, and Kevin and I worked on a bill several years ago to extend the hours of the youth, several of the youth agencies. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Now, I'm not just talking about throwing money at a nonprofit and walking away. Right. We have to be there and have a role to play. You know, be at the table, I think, as Stephen said, and have a say-so in what's going to happen. But I think this is one of those things where I'll take a quote from Mayor Sills of a public-private partnership. You know, we're the public. These private nonprofits actually do this. This is what they do every day. And they struggle every day to raise the funds to pay for their cost. So I think the city can work a lot closer with the nonprofits to deal with that subject. But we've got to have something that's more attractive to these young people in the age range you talked about than what they've got facing them right now.
Can you put, after Mr. Kelly speaks, can you put the number up so people can call in after Mr. Kelly speaks?
Mr. Washington, and I'll go.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
Crime is up because kids feel worthless. And the reason why they feel worthless is because they have nothing to do. I was around during spring break, and kids had nothing to do at all. They should have a Mardi Gras in Wilmington during spring break. But here's the deal. Instead of people reaching out to the city, we have to reach out. You know who's close with these kids? Teachers. I don't hear anyone involving or including school teachers in the system. The city of Wilmington really needs to create and build a relationship with the school district. They talk about local control. You build relationships, you can get local control, and then you can share, and then you can collaborate. Because a lot of these kids are close with the teachers. And because they feel worthless, they are out there because the system sometimes fails the kids. It's not that the kids fail the system. So if we begin to develop programs with the school districts and the city of Wilmington collaborating as one, because so where do the city kids go in the summer? To the city of Wilmington. And where are they from? The city of Wilmington. Where do they go? To all the schools throughout the state of Delaware. And we really need to begin to include our teachers in these processes when it comes down to building relationships, when it comes down to building programs. I find it strange that on a lot of our boards that make decisions for the educators, the ones that are in the classroom, they don't include the teachers. Here's people outside of the schools making decisions about the schools saying that we're not doing what we're supposed to do as educators. And that's not the case or the point. We're not included. They're making decisions based on some data that they may see, and a lot of kids don't test well simply because they may be hungry prior to taking the test. So we need to really include our teachers in some of these programs. And just like teachers have extra pay, extra responsibility, which is EPR, they could have overtime with the city. The city could come into the schools. The schools should be able to go into the city. We have to work together. We have to really collaborate.
Okay. And after Mr. Kelly speaks, we put the phone number up. I want to start taking some calls.
People in jobs. It comes down that each group needs a job. Under my administration, I would take Parks and Recreation and move the maintenance out. We'd package with youth and families that was on before when Councilmember Gregory. I would establish an advocacy office of youth. Right now, a lot of people make decisions of young people and believe they know what they need, but sometimes they don't. As you said, we've got to bring them in a room and find out what we got to be able to do. We have to make their neighborhood safe first, because not everybody in the city is bad. 90% of the young people do the right thing. So how do we engage them? How do we get their education better? If you look at that CDC report, 500 people who were involved in a violent crime, half are under 25. Half of all those had a couple factors, been expelled, IEPD, going back to what Steve said, education. We've got to educate our young people in the city. We've got to make it safer for them. We've got to find some jobs for them. And a way to do that, you've got to bring somebody in who's going to say, here's how we're going to make this thing better. Go to Dover to find money, go to the nonprofits, as Norm had said, to make things happen. We're losing our young people. Homicide is the #1 killer of a teenager in this city. And that's not what we should be doing. We've got to change that. And young people want to work. They need 3 things: something to do, somewhere to go, and something to look up. But we're in all these matches. People's Settlement doesn't provide programs like it used to. I'm over in Browntown, a girls club. Boys Club doesn't want to open up the Boys and Girls Club. You know, I give Senator Marshall and Representative Dorsey, I'll give them props for trying to get it open in J Street. We just don't have enough for our young people to be able to do, but we've got to engage them, and the way you do that is through a youth advocacy office that really sets clear policy for how we're going to help them.
Can you put the number up? Also, what I would like to see, when I was president years ago at the Port of Wilmington, we had people, when they would get out of prison, they used to come down to Port and work. They cut that out. Also, when you come out of prison, they take your driver's license. They take everything so you can have to get a job. They take it away from you. And I would like to see this mayor and whoever's going to be the mayor to advocate to change that. So if I'm trying to get my life together and you didn't took the ladder away from me to climb myself out of the basement,
Sure.
there's no way, even if you give me a work permit, if you give me a work permit so I can at least go get a job, but who's going to hire you if you don't have a driver's license? I mean, they've done so many things to strip you from moving ahead. And let me say this too: kids do better with structure. Yes. And I would wish we start thinking outside the box. One of the things I would like the city to find money to have a psychiatrist, because a lot of these kids are in pain, and they need somebody to talk to. It's cheaper to give this kid a counseling session for an hour a week than pay $36,000 to have a kid in jail. I mean, we got to do some things. Ivy, can you put the number up? And again, I mean, so please call in and ask these candidates about some questions you want to ask. But I just think, again, that would help the mayor, that would help the city if they put programs in that can help.
Well, one thing you talked, and I think we've got to make it easier to clear your record. You know, many people don't realize that, you know, the expungement or pardon isn't that difficult with somebody to assist you. People don't realize now that, you know, Representative Kelly in the state passed, after 3 years, if you've had a conviction, you don't owe any money, you're not on probation, and you're good, you can vote. You'd be surprised how many people we run across who don't think that they can vote, and they can.
Right.
And that's what we got to let them know.
I think they should be able to, if they're in jail with a felony.
Say that again.
I believe if there's a person in jail and they have a felony, as they're in jail, if they don't have a high school education.
Hello, you're on the air. Sorry.
Julius, quick question on the candidates for mayor. Will they bring in the National Guard to help cartel crime?
Okay, I would ask that question.
Will they bring in the National Guard to help cartel crime?
Okay, thank you. I'll let him answer it. Thank you. Okay, he's asking each of y'all heard this question about National Guards.
Yeah, we have the police. We need to redeploy things better. We have to take a little ownership of ourselves for what's going on, you know, in the city. But this isn't the riots of '69, and we don't need the National Guard in the city of Wilmington.
Just
Right.
one other thing too, before we take that kind of step, you know, I think we have jurisdictions around us like Newcastle County
Sure.
that would be more than happy to, and they've done it in the past, to send their officers in here on specific details.
Just hold on for 1 second.
So that's a step less than National Guard, I think, that we would take first.
Okay, go ahead. Give me your name and answer the question.
Yeah, this is McKee Booker, and I have a question for Kevin Kelly. We were on the NAACP show, and he was saying something about a court where we could deal with the juveniles. That wasn't really clear to me how we will be able to deal with the juveniles like the Black Man Development Center had. If you you forward to us, and then we will be able to deal with them before they went to court, or you know, I'm mixed up with that. I meant to ask him that when I was on the show with him.
Okay, how you doing? I'm gonna let him answer the question. Thank you for calling. All right, go ahead.
Just real, and Jalal used to run the Black Man's Development. What we would do, we'd have a community court for young people who were committed of non-violent offenses where they didn't rob you or something like just doing something that young people do. They would come to a court of their peers, of individuals in their neighborhood and someone else, and they would say, you know what, rather than going to family court, here's what you got to do: community service. You've got to do this. You got to better do in school.
Hold
And
on
if
for a
you do
second.
that, then you're not going to go to court. But also, we need individuals who guide young people through the court system so they're making the right decisions. Because if you go to court sometimes, whether you're an adult or a juvenile, you can make a decision that's really going to impact you the rest of your life.
All right, go ahead with your question. Hello?
Hello.
Go ahead with your question.
Such a good show, but I didn't hear you talk anything about the economy. And I wanted to ask each of the panels, in Seattle, Washington, the city council approved the minimum wage to be increased to $15 an hour for low-pay workers. And I wanted to know, would any of you sponsor an ordinance to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour in Wilmington?
Okay, thank you. Okay, her question was, in Seattle, Washington, they moved it up to $15 an hour minimum wage. And briefly, all three of the candidates, could you answer the question?
The minimum wage has to be increased to $8.25 now. I believe we need to gradually get it up to $15 an hour. I think it's difficult to make
Hold
that
on for a
jump.
second, please.
But you've got to realize that people are working full-time jobs making minimum wage, and they can't even afford a place to live. We've got to look at how government does that in the private sector. I think the more you pay somebody, the more harder they're going to work and the more efficient you're going to have them to be. And it's going to pay off in the end.
Yeah, I would just say that I think everybody recognizes you can't go from $8 to $15 overnight. That has too much of an effect on the economy. But it could be phased in over a certain number of years. And I think the bill that recently got passed has, maybe it doesn't go up to 15, but it does go up and over a period of years. That way business has a chance to prepare for it, and you don't do the opposite of what you're trying to do by making businesses fire people because they can't afford, you know, the higher minimum
I'll do it
wage.
quickly, I got a
I
question.
believe if it's in Seattle, it'll be here. It'll go up to $15. I believe right now, because it's not at $15 here, we have to make the minimum wage more attractive, give them some benefits.
Okay, go ahead with your question.
Okay, good evening, Julius,
How you doing?
Kelly, Mr. Griffin, and Mr. Washington.
Hello.
I've just been sitting listening to all three, particularly you, Mr. Washington. Your plan sounds good, your SLAP plan, if I'm saying it right. The police walking in the community, that sounds very good. But also, I would like to put a question to each and every one of you. If you have walked in each community on north side, east side, west side, we need these street lights. We need them, and we need them bright. You know, we have some going off and on. We have some that are so dim. You know, and that's just a question I want to put to y'all about the street light.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, go ahead.
I'm in every neighborhood in the city. You're right. When a street light is out, it's very dark, and we're paying, you know, Connective, Delmarva, whoever they are this week, and they change every week, to take care of those street lights. Now you can go on and report them and see. But just real quick, street lighting has been proven to be a deterrent to crime throughout the city. And I think every light should be on. I know there's some programs now to put some lights that would be kind of like below the trees to make things brighter.
Yeah, and part and parcel with what Kevin
Hold on
just
for 1
said
second.
is the idea that if you as a resident see someone shooting out the lights and that sort of thing, Delmarva does get a little reluctant to come and replace the same light again and again and again. So we need the cooperation of the community to try to catch the people that are damaging these lights.
I need a Board of Civic Association presidents where we're collaborating, what's going on, where there's success in the community. Where there's success in the community, we need to find out what they're doing in that community, and we utilize it in the other communities. So we have to collaborate throughout. Yes, we do need brighter streetlights.
All right, go ahead, ask your question.
Yes, unfortunately, the candidate me and my family, my relatives are voting for is Bob Marshall, who has been consistently supporting the Port of Wilmington. He's been consistently supporting the minimum wage. He's been consistently supporting the Boys and Girls Club reopening, and he's been consistently over his years of service. He's been consistently for the people and minimum wage. And also, I would like to hear a shout out, even though he's not there. Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Speaker.
all right, thank you. Okay, and what she's saying again, and I have the utmost respect for Senator Marshall and Senate Bill 3. What he did it's unheard of and it's great. So again, the Port of Wilmington, everybody's talking about the expansion. It wouldn't have been an expansion if Senate Bill 3 wasn't introduced. So, I mean, my hat and everything else goes to what he did, 16,000 jobs and on, I could go on and on. But he'll be on next month and he'll be able to talk about that. Sure. Okay. Hello, you on the air? You have a question? Hello, you on the air? Okay. One of the things I want to ask each candidate, and we do it briefly, okay, the trade. I would like to see, I hope who's ever the mayor will go to Dover, advocate for West Center City, the other rec centers, getting carpentry, getting trades. If these kids have a tool, they had this one guy who trained, everybody came out of prison. He had over 500 people. He taught carpentry, everything. They all end up getting jobs and they never went back. How do you feel about trade, trying to get money to train these kids to, and we got to do it briefly because he's, so go ahead.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Hold on, can you hold on?
The more skills and training we can bring in, and people who do it would be best. I think we also need to have a charter or a VOTEC for junior high school students to let them start to learn trades at a very young age rather than waiting for high school. That would feed into it. But anytime we can create job opportunities, that helps the economy, gets those at-risk youth working. That's the best thing for all of us.
Right. As I may have mentioned, Julius, I've been on the board of trustees of Del Tech for 19 years. And we have a new program I was proud to vote for called the Innovation Technology Center. It's right on Stanton Road near the Stanton campus. And in that facility, they teach high schoolers how to do HVAC repair, how to weld, how to put up drywall, how to repair appliances, some electrical engineering, some mechanical engineering skills.
Awesome.
So it's actually taking place right now by Del Tech. And it's also for adults, but the high schoolers that go through it get credits so that if they want to come back to Del Tech and get a 2-year associate's degree, they've started down that road.
Okay, go ahead.
Trade is good, but our kids need to read. We have to begin to get them reading. What good is a trade if you can't read the information for that trade? So we have to start off with getting on the basic skills, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And then we build upon, and then we can go and think about trade.
Go ahead, you on the air.
Yes, I'm glad to hear you guys talking, and I'm concerned about.
Okay, you got a question because they tell us to wrap it up, so go ahead with the question.
The question is right back to the point of trying to get your records expunged.
Okay. All right, I let everybody try to answer that. Thank you so much. I wish you would have called earlier because they starting us to wrap us up. Thank you so much, though. His question was about getting expungement, but right now we don't have the time. So I want to give each, and firstly, I'm glad that y'all came on. And I really appreciate it, and I hope the viewing audience got something out of this, and we're going to have another one again. So I'd like each of y'all to, in 1 minute, to for 50 seconds or whatever.
30 seconds.
Give your last statement, 30 seconds or whatever.
Well, I went first, so I'll go last. Go ahead, Steve.
Einstein said that if you do the same thing the same way over and over again and expect a different outcome, that's insanity. When you consider voting, vote Steve Washington, Independent Party, Delaware. Thank you.
Yeah, on the issue of expungement, I just want to say that you know, that's an issue that really holds back folks from even getting through the door for an initial interview with an employer. So I think anything that can be done, especially once you consider the crime that was committed by the youngster, gets done. I think expungement is only for juveniles, right?
Yeah,
adults.
yeah.
Is it for
Pardon-
adults?
Yes, pardons for after 18, under 18 is expungement.
Is expungement, okay. Well, that's what I was thinking about. So I think it's a good thing. You know, council worked on a separate law, at least for employees coming in for the city, for banning the box.
Okay.
You know, the box on
Right.
an employment form. And I think it was Councilman Wright that sponsored that.
Okay.
But the point I'm making is
Gotta
that
make it quick because he's.
yeah, I know.
He keeps going.
I think expungement is a viable tool to help erase some of the problems that the child's experience. Go ahead.
Okay.
And this city needs someone to come in and stabilize it. I'm going to replace, you know, all this hostility with friendliness, you know, suspicion with transparency. With my background, I've been in every neighborhood in the city, no matter what's happened, good, bad, or indifferent. You know, my financial background, my government background, my political, you know, neighborhoods, and my drive to make this city better, I think the best candidate to win this election. There's a long ways to go, but I would tell everybody, please stay engaged in this process. We had a good discussion tonight. I think we're all very civil, but I think I'm the best person.
Okay, he's telling me to wrap it up, but again, we'll be back on the third Sunday. I hope you got something out of this. But one thing I want everybody to understand, you have to organize, and the election starts after the person wins. We normally vote and go home. We need to vote and pay attention and make any candidate do their job. Again, thank you so much. And the show tonight is dedicated to Skinny Wilson, the king of the Port of Wilmington. Thank you, and thank you again.